All right, this video I'm going to show you how to do two things. We're going to use the, most people call it Rotozip. Rotozip's a brand name, but your drywall cutout tool. And we're going to show you how to use put in drywall. Now, I had a scrap piece of drywall. If you could imagine that this 2x4 is a stud, this 2x4 is a stud. On one side of your drywall, now this is just a scrap piece. Both edges would have this rounded over edge right here. That's your factory edge, all right? So drywall, you put drywall in with these little bits right here that has a shoulder on it. That shoulder is going to do two things. It's going to, whenever you run your screw in, it's going to put a little dimple in the drywall. That way the guy that comes behind you and muds over it has a little indentation that the mud can go over, so he can sand it down and it ends up flush with your with the rest of the drywall. That way you don't see screw places all through your drywall. And the other thing it's going to do is it's going to keep me from running the screw too deep. All right, so this is your drywall screws are a Phillips bit. They're always black and they got these real coarse threads on them. All right, and we're going to run this in. Now it doesn't let me run, and whenever I run my finger over that, I don't want to really be able to feel. There's probably deep enough right there. All right, so I don't really want to be able to feel my screw because somebody's going to have to mud over that. Now, as for placement, you've got 1.5 inches to work with. All right, you want to be off of your edge 3/4 of an inch. So you want to be basically halfway. Now, that's not always 100% possible, but your other edge over here is going to be, depending on what you're doing in a house, most of the time your other edge over here is going to be in the center of a stud. So you can run your screw in here. So it makes a little dimple. Most of the time, I have 1.25 inch drywall screws. These are actually 1.5 inches. I don't know where I got these from. And most of the time, you're also not putting drywall down on a flat surface. You're either on a wall or a ceiling. But this is what I got just for demonstration purposes. All right, and they keep a lot of places you don't even have to get a drywall inspection once you get all your drywall in, but Alexander County, I believe you still do, I think. As far as drywall spacing on your ceiling, I tend to go 12 inches, every 12 inches, which is every foot. On your walls, I tend to go every 16. Some people like more than that, just to make sure the drywall stays up. All right, but we'll go ahead and run one down here towards the bottom. And whenever I'm doing that, you can hear that sound. You are stripping it a tiny little bit, but it's not bad. Now, if you continue to do that, you will end up bad. So, one of the things you got to do in drywall is you got to cut out junction boxes or electrical boxes, whatever. So, if you got one of your ceiling fan box is typically a circle, your electrical boxes are typically a rectangle. So, we'll simulate like a rectangle. And I'm ballparking here size. I want to say they're like 4 inches by 3 inches or something like that. Maybe 2.5. I can't remember. I'm sure the electrician can tell me. All right. So one of the things. Now this, I don't actually have an electrical box here, but one of the things that you do before you put your drywall up, or before I put my drywall up, I like to write down either on my drywall on the ceiling, on my studs, or on my floor somewhere. And I like to measure over with my tape measure, and I will know where my center's at. Or not my center, but sorry, my corner. So I will typically measure to one of my corners. I got 12 3/4 this way, so I'll put an arrow like this, 12 3/4. And then I'll measure up from the bottom, and we got 16.5. So I'll put an arrow like this, put 16.5. And that way I know where to start. This you do by feel. Okay, so you can set the depth on this. This bit right here is a special, this particular bit's not a special bit because I must have run out of the ones that I needed, but you're supposed to have a special bit that goes in here. It's got like a little dull edge and it won't mess up your electrical boxes. I don't have one in here, so it's not gonna mess anything up, but you do wanna get those special bits if you're actually doing drywall. My depth wise, now you can actually set this for how deep. We've got 1/2 inch drywall and I want it to extend beyond my drywall about 1/4 of an inch. All right. If you go too deep, you end up messing up stuff in your wall. All right, you go too shallow, you don't cut through your drywall. All right, you turn this thing on, And you mainly do this by feel. So whenever I have a line here to go by, most of the time you don't have the box outline here to go by. You do this by feel. Whenever you stick it in there and you put it along the edge and you just feel your way around the edge of the box. Okay? That's the best method we've got, sir. Turn it on. So that is cutting out with the drywall cutout tool. You can as well, hang on one second. You can also cut with a drywall saw or keyhole saw. These you've got to obviously do manually. So if you had a corner here, you take this, it's sharp, pop it through, it's going to puncture your drywall, and then you can saw along your edge. All right, I personally like the cutout tool, especially if you're going to do any sort of drywall for a long period of time. But one of these, you know, if you're only doing a little bit of drywall, you can get one of these for $10, $7, $8, whatever. So there's your drywall cutout tool. Like I said, you got to get that special bit that's got a little dull end on it. That way it won't cut your electrical box and stuff. This particular bit's actually just a regular drill bit, which will work if you're in a pinch, but I don't prefer it if you can help it.